Hey everyone, it's Jen from Minute Sky Fibers, and since we've been talking about interchangeable knitting needles, I thought it would be good to address whether or not I think Addi interchangeable knitting needles are worth the extra cost. In short, yes, I do think that Addi knitting needles are worth the extra cost. Addi regular circular knitting needles are about twice the cost of many of the other knitting needles available out there that are commercially made by Clover or Boye or whoever else, and I absolutely think those ones are worth it, and the interchangeables are no exception. The only reason I don't currently have a pair is because I don't want to get a pair until I get rid of my Denise interchangeables, at which point I'll upgrade to the Addis. It just hasn't happened yet since we didn't have the Addi lace ones, which are the ones I want when I used to work in the yarn store. However, I really do think that the Addi interchangeable knitting needles are worth the extra cost if you are actually going to use interchangeable knitting needles. If you don't knit very much, or plastic or the screw-on tips of the other knitting needles won't bother you, and most especially if cost really is a concern, definitely go with the cheaper ones. Like, for example, I have the Denise ones, and I haven't changed yet because I don't really use the larger size knitting needles very often, which is mostly what I use interchangeable knitting needles for, since I only really knit with small knitting needles. So for me, interchangeable knitting needles are just to fill in the gaps. That being said, I love the Addi tips much better than either the Denise or the Boye knitting needles. Addi tips are much smoother for me. I prefer metal to Denise's plastic, which for me tends to drag on my knitting and really slow me down, even though I knit loosely. And I like that the Addi clicks into place and doesn't unscrew, which for me, the Boye interchangeable knitting needles, which I've also owned, just unscrewed for me horribly. The nice thing about the Addis also is that they have two different tip types, just like their regular circular knitting needles. They have the regular, and then they have the lace. I really like the lace ones. A lot of people like the regular ones because they have more rounded tips. I tend to prefer lace knitting needles since I like the really sharp, pointy tips that have just a tiny bit of drag, so they're not super smooth. Since I knit really loose, so I don't want a lot of drag, I want just enough that things don't go flying off if I'm knitting with silk. But I really want to be able to get there and knit 5 or 6 stitches together without having to get out a different size knitting needle or a crochet hook in order to be able to do it. Since I knit a lot of lace and cables, it's really important that I am able to use the sharp points. Downside of the lace ones, they're both about the same price. The lace ones only come with 8 sizes instead of the 10 sizes that the regular Addi interchangeable knitting needle comes in. But it does have more cords. You can of course buy more cords and connectors so you can make the different sizes. It kind of depends on how much you're going to use those extra large sizes of the knitting needles, which aren't really there in the lace ones, because how often do you need a size 15 when you're knitting lace? Not really very often. You really need the size, the sizes 4 to 8, maybe even 9, much more often. So, Addi interchangeable knitting needles worth the extra cost? Yes, if you can afford it, if you're actually going to use interchangeable knitting needles frequently.